Live video is starting and we're live. Great. Uh, Hi, everyone. If you're seeing this, it's because we get a bonus sermon today, courtesy of Preaching Camp and some well behaved church ladies. Although, let me say, I do believe that during the cake cutting portion of the festivities here, I think I heard my mom say, hit him in the face with it. And I heard someone else, I think it might have been Brad, who said, don't. And I'm glad we listened to him. Otherwise, we might not have gotten this little extra sermon. So good job being well behaved. Um, uh, Obviously, I'm probably not going to do 3 sermons a week very often as a regular deal. But because I went to preaching camp and I did prepare a sermon for all of these, I thought I might as well share with you what I shared with my small groups there at preaching camp. This is over Ecclesiastes 1, verses 2, 12 through 14, and chapter 2, verses 18 through 23. Kirsten already read it this morning, but just so it's all fresh in our heads, I'm going to read it again. Vanity of vanities, says the teacher. Vanity of vanity. All is vanity. I, the teacher, when king over Israel and Jerusalem, applied my mind to seek and to search out by wisdom all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to human beings to be busy with. I saw all the deeds that are done under the sun, and see all is vanity and a chasing after wind. I hated all my toil in which I had toiled under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to those who come after me. And who knows whether they will be wise or foolish? Yet they will be master of all for which I toiled and used my wisdom under the sun. This also is vanity. So I turned and gave my heart up to despair concerning all the toil of my labors under the sun, because sometimes one who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave all that to be enjoyed by another who did not toil for it. This also is vanity and a great evil. What do mortals get from all their toil and strain with which they toil under the sun? For all their days are full of pain, and their work is a vexation. Even at night their minds do not rest. This also is vanity. Whew. Aren't you glad you get a sermon over that one? So let's start with this. Deir fe, deia frender, deir sjolfer it sama, en orð styr deir aldregi, hvem ser goden getter. Now I know what you're thinking. That's not English. And you're right. It's not Greek or Hebrew either. It's not a biblical language. Any guesses as to what it might be? When I asked my small groups this, someone was like, was that Latvian? Was that German? No. Would you believe? Reconstructed Old Norse. So this comes from the Viking Bible, the Poetic Edda, specifically from a collection of wisdom sayings called the Havamal. And the translation is, cattle die, kinsmen die, you yourself will die the same way. But glory dies never for one who has earned it. And I love that. I think that's great. I want that written on my tombstone when I die. Because in a society that's so afraid of death that we hide from it, that we try to push it off into a corner of the world, we don't even want to see images of death, we don't want to be reminded of death, it's good to remember the fact that, yeah, you will die. Your animals will die, your friends will die, your family will die, and you will die. But this little verse gives us a little bit of hope because your reputation can live on beyond you. The word orðstír means something like word glory. It's your fame, your renown, what you've done, being remembered for what you've done. And I love that. I love the idea that you could be such a reliable, dependable friend that people will remember you after you're gone. And that's sort of how your name lives on. You could be so important to history that you get a page, a chapter, at least a paragraph, or maybe a sentence in a history book somewhere. You can live on by doing great things. Unfortunately, our Ecclesiastes text doesn't give us any kind of hope like that. Vanity on vanity. Everything is meaningless. Chasing after wind, it's pointless and hopeless. And why would we even do any of this toil? We don't even get anything out of it ultimately because you die. And not only do you die, not only can you not take it with you, but even worse, Ecclesiastes names the reality that after you go, the next person can just mess it up, burn it all down. Everything you've worked for can be given over to someone foolish or lazy who doesn't care about it and lets it all go to waste. That could be how your legacy is left. There's a real human fear in this. I'm glad the teacher at Ecclesiastes points this out, because if not, if we didn't have somewhere in the Bible to talk about this, maybe the Bible wouldn't be a good way to speak to some of our concerns, some of our worries, some of our fears. But here it is. This is a fear we have, and it's not just a fear that comes in death. I imagine a lot of us feel something like this while we're alive. I imagine this is probably true for every president of the United States. As soon as you get out, your successor comes in and might mess up everything you've worked for. And when it flips parties one year after another, it seems like everything gets turned on its head, right? Then again, I don't know if I could feel sorry for any president of the United States. I mean, they kind of had the top job, except for maybe, what is it, William Henry Harrison, the guy that gave a 2-hour-long inaugural address in the rain and then died a month later of probably related illnesses. You can feel sorry for him. That's a tough deal. But I imagine that pastors probably feel the same way, or frankly, anyone who is in charge of something. You build up so much, you get so good at your job. You do a job that it would take 2 or 3 other people to do. And then you go. You retire, you leave, you walk away, you get a different job. And what happens? Does everything just fall apart? Everything you've worked for, everything you put together, is it just a mess now? I can understand why people have a hard time stepping away from things. Because when you do, you're leaving it to someone who might completely ruin everything you've worked for. And it does all feel awfully vain and meaningless, all pointless toil that doesn't do any good for you when somebody else messes it up. But as hopeless as this sounds, I think in light of Jesus Christ, we can find hope even in this. And that hope is the meaninglessness itself. How can meaninglessness be hopeful? Well, consider this. I don't know if I know a model boat hobbyist, but just imagine this with me, right? I am imagining kind of an older man with thin, wispy hair, and he's wearing a slightly wrinkled button-up shirt and red and black suspenders attached to his gray pants, and he's hunched over in his workspace that's dimly lit except for the noisy overhead lamp buzzing above him, and he's got his goggles on with all the different magnifications, and he's got his almost surgically precise tools, and he's sitting there trying to get a little loop over this little hook for the 50th time, and he gets it. He takes a deep breath, and he sits back, satisfied at the work he's done, and then he thinks that he has to do just 400 more steps before this boat comes together. Why does he do it? Why waste the time building a model boat? Now, he might say, or any hobbyist might say, well, the reason I do it is it teaches patience. Maybe they'd say that if they're trying to recruit someone else into the hobby. But if they were to say, well, it teaches patience, I would say, no, don't kid yourself. No, it doesn't. You already had patience. If you didn't have patience, you wouldn't be doing model boats. That wouldn't be the hobby that you have if you didn't have patience already. If you didn't have patience and you decided out of the blue to start a new hobby of putting together model boats, then that would be your hobby for about 5 minutes. And you know what your next hobby would be? Trying to figure out the best way to pick splinters out of this part of your hand. No, you don't do it because it teaches patience. Nor do you really do it as like a family heirloom. I imagine some of these might be an heirloom. Maybe you give these to your grandkids, and your grandkids, a couple of them, they hold on as treasured memories of you after you're gone. But what about all the other boats? Unless you got a lot of grandkids, you got some more boats. What are they going to do? Even the treasured family heirlooms are probably going to be going up on a high shelf somewhere to be displayed where they're probably going to collect dust. But the other ones, if you're lucky, if you're lucky, they're going to go in a sturdy plastic tote in the attic. If you're less lucky, they're going to go in a cardboard box in the basement. If you're really unlucky, they're going to go in the trash. And you know what? I don't think model boats even float. What's the point of it? It's not renown, it's not legacy, it's not family heirloom. They're not serving a practical purpose. Why do people put together model boats? Because it's fun. Because they enjoy it. They just like the feeling of accomplishing something. It's work that they can do, that they don't feel alienated from. It's work that they can engage with, that they can solve little problems, little challenges, and put together a puzzle. It is an hour of time, perhaps days cumulatively, of time in which they can let go of the cares of the world. They don't have to be worried about money. They don't have to be worried about the affairs of the day, whatever's going on. They don't have to worry about anything. They can just focus and be in the moment and do something that they simply enjoy doing. The unfortunate reality is most of our lives, our time is spent in vain, meaningless tasks, but we're trying to cram so much meaning into them because we think meaning in our tasks is the only way that we're going to do something, be something, matter. The only way that we'll live on when we're gone is if we fill every moment of every day with so much meaning that people will pay attention to us. We're so afraid of being meaningless that we have to pretend that there's meaning in everything. Everything has a purpose, layers upon layers of purposes. And this will be good now, and it'll be good later, and everything has to do something. But what would it be like if we could just relax and enjoy what we're doing simply for doing it? Now, I don't want to be mistaken here. I'm not suggesting that we should all just put together model boats and not actually do any of the work of God's kingdom. Certainly, we should help the poor. We should do our jobs in as much as our jobs help other people. As God calls us to our vocations, we should do these things, absolutely. But part of living in God's kingdom is what we might call eschatological imagination. That is, thinking about the final form of God's kingdom, thinking about God's coming kingdom and the end of time. And when we think about God's coming kingdom, I hope we imagine that we are so deeply grounded and rooted in God's love that we don't need to cram other meaning into our lives. We don't need people to love us for other reasons, for what we can do, for what we can produce. But we're loved simply for who we are because God loves us. I hope when we imagine the fullness of God's kingdom, we're not imagining cramming every little bit of meaning into work. This will make me money. This will teach me patience. This will be a good family heirloom. This will give me a legacy and renown. We can simply say, I just like doing it. I don't need another reason. I just enjoy spending time with people I care about and doing these fun activities together. Obviously, we can't fully live this kingdom life now. We have work that is going to feel mundane and just miserable. Work that we'll feel alienated from. Sure. That's going to continue happening for now. But when we can, we should take time to enjoy the meaninglessness of work. Work that is done not for several purposes, but simply because we love doing it. So make your model boats and your model railroads and crochet your pet's mittens, whatever it happens to be. Take time to imagine the fullness of God's kingdom a kingdom in which we don't need to cram every moment with meaning, because our meaning, our life, our love, our value is rooted in God, and God is more than enough to provide. Amen.